Hi, YouTube, and welcome to part 8 of Silent Hill 2 with a Therapist. I know I left you on quite the cliffhanger. We're going to open this safe. It's like Reddit all over again. If you know, you know. Anyway, please leave a thumbs up, leave a comment if you feel so inclined. I appreciate that all of you have been pretty good about keeping chat spoiler free. It's been a lot of fun playing this. I know that we've had some really heavy discussions about stuff, and so if you've made it through all of those and have enjoyed it or have found it helpful, I'm glad to hear that. Do subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this and you're loving it and you're not subscribed to the channel, I beg of you, please hit that subscribe button. It makes a huge difference for my channel. So, all right, let's see what we get up to today after we open this safe. Here we go. Rooftop. Oh, baby. There's a note in here. Their images became blurry, melting together. I could no longer tell. Not sure if I can do it, but maybe you can. This will take you to where you need to be, through probably not the way you want to. And there's bound to be some pain involved. There always is. I'm not sure if I can do it, but maybe you can. Their images become blurry, melting together. I can no longer tell. Not sure if I can do it, but maybe you can. This will take you to where you need to be, but probably not the way that you want to. And there's bound to be some pain involved. There always is. Interesting. That safe is intense. So, there's pain on the rooftop. I guess. Can't wait. All right, so we access that through the third level. All right, Laura is behind that steel door. I don't think there's anywhere left on the hospital for us to go to that we... Well, actually, did I? Yeah, I did open this. This was his office. This is how we got... Okay, yes. All right, we're good. I do want to check on... I do want to check on Maria one more time. Just make sure she's... Oh, she's gone. All right. That's fine. I mean, I hope she's okay. I'm not exactly, like, freaking out about it. Like, totally fine. But... Oh, you can't go to the third floor from the elevator. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fun things up on top of this roof. Undoubtedly. Man, I could just like sit here and close my eyes. So it's just so like, the ambience is so good. Living in the desert, I do miss the sound of rain. Silent Hill, more like Rainy Hill, am I right? What is this? May 9th, rain. Staved out the window all day. Peaceful here, nothing to do. Still not allowed to go outside. May 10th, still raining. Talked to the doctor a little. Would they have saved me if I didn't have a family to feed? I know I'm pathetic and weak. Not everyone can be strong. May 11th, rain again. The meds made me feel sick today. If I'm only better when I'm drugged, then who am I anyway? May 12th, rain as usual. I don't want to cause any more trouble for anyone, but I'm a bother either way. Can it really be such a sin to run instead of fight? Some people may say so, but they don't have to live in my shoes. It may be selfish, but it's what I want. If it's too hard like this, it's just too hard. May 13th, the doctor came in today. He said I'll be released soon, that it's time to go home. I should be happy, but I'm afraid. I'm so afraid. It feels like something's about to happen, like the last gasp of air before the plunge. But deep down, I know it's too late to turn back. Okay, there's a lot here. Try to be relatively refined in the way that I talk about this, but there's a lot of different things that we can go into here. So, would they have saved me if I didn't have a family to feed? That's a question you'll never know the answer to, although I think it's generally important to make the assumption that the answer to that is yes. Like, there's a lot of fear sometimes that people have around the idea that what makes me more savable than somebody else. But that's not really how therapists and medical professionals look at you. You certainly triage, in the medical profession anyway, if you like work in an emergency room. But ultimately, I think it's really important to know I don't compare clients. And the many great therapists I know are exactly the same way. It's not a race. It's not a competition. It's not something where I think this person is more important than this person. I should really invest a whole bunch of energy, of my therapeutic energy, into this person because they have a family to feed, rather than this person who lives alone. Like, just because you live alone or don't have a support system around you or whatever, that doesn't make you any less of a human that's deserving of the service that I provide. So that fear, that worry or anxiety there is one that whoever wrote this letter would do well to answer for themselves as ultimately, yes, they would have, but that's not what it's about. If you're attaching that much of who you are to the idea that you have a family to feed and that you're a provider, that really speaks more to what you're constructing your identity around, and that's not what the doctors and therapists are seeing. Is comparing clients a reason for license to be revoked? No. Not unless you're comparing clients in conversations with your clients. Like if I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, and even that's not like a revocation of license, but like I would never say to a client, oh, yeah, well, you think that's bad. The person I'm seeing at 7 o'clock is dealing with something way worse, so nut up. Like I would never in my life would I say something like that. But that would be problematic. That would be enough reason for you to fire your therapist. Whether that's an unethical offense, no. If I disclosed private health information about another client to a client, then yeah, HIPAA's going to get my ass for that, and I could get in big trouble. But that's if you happen to think to yourself like, yes, some people are dealing with more than others, but that's the relativity of life. No, it's not ethical to think that. But everybody gets my all. Anyway, I know I'm pathetic and weak. No, you don't. You've decided to judge yourself as if you are pathetic and weak, and that is something that we want to challenge. The reason that that's an issue is because if you make a de facto statement that you are pathetic and weak, that's your evaluation. If you choose that and you stand by it and you take accountability for your choice to see yourself that way, hey, more power to you, because then that means that you will accept the consequences of your projections. But I'm pathetic and weak is not an objective statement. It's not a reality-based statement. That may be something that you're worried that you are. It may be something that you see as like part of your personality profile. But ultimately, you don't know you're pathetic and weak. You are saying to yourself that you are, and you're evaluating it as such. And that means one of two things. So if you are pathetic and weak, then what do you consider to be strong and respectable? And is that something that you're willing to work toward? Because the insinuation here is that pathetic and weak is bad. So what would be good? And is that something that you have any interest in working toward? If you say, no, I'm fine being pathetic and weak, then again, more power to you. But if you come to me and say, I know I'm pathetic and weak, I'm going to challenge that if I'm the therapist to this person. I'm going to say, and I can be empathic in the way that I challenge that, but I'm going to challenge that. Because if you decide de facto that you're pathetic and weak, you will project that into the spaces that you're in. You will make the assumption that other people see you that way. And you may actually perform as pathetic and weak as a way to fulfill that identity, as a way to confirmation bias yourself and others, essentially, where you may make decisions that you believe a pathetic and weak person would make because you see that as who you are. And that becomes a positive feedback loop that is very difficult to disrupt when people get entrenched in it. Not everyone can be strong. It's not a binary. You're not either strong or weak. Strength is a relative term. The reason I'm going line by line on this is because this is a really good insight into this person and what they're thinking and feeling to an extent. And this is the type of thing that if I was to ever suggest that a person journal, like this person is, and they brought that to therapy, we would really sit down and talk through this stuff and talk about why some of what you've written is probably not facilitating the pathway toward your goals that you would like it to. Meds made me feel sick today. That really sucks, and unfortunately, that is something that happens for people. Sometimes the side effects of medication are so brutal that it outweighs how brutal the thing you're trying to treat is. And it's a shitty process. It really is. I will say this, that sometimes it takes different medications and trying different medications to find the thing that works for you. It can be a demoralizing process. And is one that, like, it sucks because it's not like you take a psychotropic medication and then just like the next day it shows its effect. It takes weeks sometimes for the effects of a medication to actually take hold. And that really sucks because a lot of these medications, they work with your chemistry and your homeostasis and stuff, and they move baselines. And you don't really see the effects of that for a long period of time until you've essentially established a new baseline in your body. So people get tired of that, and it's understandable. That said, sometimes when people stick with it, you can actually find the medication that may make a really significant difference in your life. And I'm sure there are people that will be in the comments or who are watching this right now who can attest to that. Yeah, it took me like 3 or 4 different things, and I finally found something, and it works, and it's very meaningful, and I'm glad that I stuck with it because this has changed my life. Which leads me to my response to, if I'm only better when I'm drugged, then who am I anyway? That's a... I mean, I could spend 4 hours talking about the existential stuff behind that. That's a question that people will ask themselves, and I respond this way almost always. Your brain is an organ like any other organ in your body. If you have high blood pressure and you take blood pressure medication and it regulates your blood pressure so that you are able to go out and enjoy some of the aspects of life that might otherwise be difficult to enjoy because of your high blood pressure, is that a bad thing? There's probably a small section of people that would say, no, it's a bad thing because, like, I'm not going to convince the 10% of people who believe that all medication is bad in this, and that's fine. You want to entrench yourself in that, go for it. If you have a headache and you take ibuprofen or acetaminophen or naproxen and your headache goes away and you are better able to study, or you're able to go hang out with your friends because your head doesn't hurt anymore and you feel more like yourself because of the fact that your head is not debilitatingly painful, is that a bad thing? There are side effects for sure, but if you are diabetic and you have to manually introduce insulin into your body, is that a bad thing if it allows you to live and not suffer the catastrophic effects of diabetes that goes untreated? No. I belabor this because for whatever reason, at some point in our history, we decided that our brain is different. So when people take psychotropic medication, they often struggle with this shame and this idea that something's wrong with them because I have to take lithium to manage my bipolar. And is that really me, or is the bipolar me? Well, ultimately, when people go to therapy or go to the doctor, it's because something's ailing them and they want it to change. And bipolar, if you're like, hey, yeah, I don't mind my bipolar, I'll ride it out. Who cares? Yeehaw, that's who I am. Then more power to you. I'm not here to tell you that you have to get medicated for it. But if you're a person who struggles with bipolar and you're like, I really hate this roller coaster ride and I would very much like to have my mood stabilized in the same way that we might stabilize other parts of our body with medication, then finding a medication, again, lithium's not the end all be all for everyone. I'm just using it as an example, but finding something that helps us accomplish that so you can live your life in the way that's in line with the way you want to live it, is that a bad thing? No. So I know I'm going in the weeds here, but it's really, really important to ask yourself if the reason that you're averse to these types of things, if the reason that you're judging yourself for this is because of some outside expectation that somehow got cast upon you that you haven't really critically thought about is pervasive, then you really should challenge that. I'm not saying that medication is for everyone. I didn't become a psychiatrist because I didn't want to deal with medication, but that doesn't mean that I have seen medication for mental illness change people's lives in the most profound and positive way ever. I've also seen people that attempt to take certain medications and the side effects are unbearable, and so they'd rather deal with what they were dealing with prior to the meds, and that's okay. It's a case-by-case thing, and nobody's experience is the end-all be-all that everybody else is going to have. It's a complicated thing because the brain is super complicated and we don't understand it particularly well. The existential question of if I'm only better when I'm drugged, who am I anyway? That's some long-term therapy fodder, and I'm not going to go down that one because otherwise we'll just stare at this letter for the entire episode. But I don't want to cause any more trouble for anyone, but I'm a bother either way. Again, that is a nasty trench for a person to dig themselves into. If you assume that you are burdensome and that you are bothersome to the people around you, you will, again, you'll project that. You'll start to interact with people out of that fear, which may mean that you like lay off, you don't advocate for yourself, you seek reassurance, XYZ, and that actually in and of itself can become burdensome. Because rather than just be and present the way that you are, you're curating a certain way of existing that's actually more of a pain in the ass to deal with than anything else. And oftentimes when people believe that they're a burden and project that onto others, that is what becomes burdensome. The reassurance of a person who has decided that they're bothering you to say, you're not bothering me, gets old and is something that will become burdensome and push people away. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're like, see, I'm a bother. And you don't want to I told you so yourself on that. So we'd be challenging that idea, and we'd be looking for data that suggests that you are not a bother. For example, the people who maybe show up and visit you, they're doing that on their own volition. Like the doctors who are trying to treat you, yes, it's their job, and certainly you could use that as justification for your own bias here. Or you could recognize that like the people in this hospital chose to be doctors because they care about the people that are in the hospital, and they're taking care of you, not because it's their job and they're paid for it. Nobody's holding a gun to their head telling them they have to treat you. They're doing that because you matter to them in some way. So we got to look at data that supports a counter argument on this. Can it really be such a sin to run instead of fight? No. There are plenty of times where running is more effective than fighting. What I really hate within that is the idea that working through mental health issues is a fight. It's not a fight. It's a matter of control and management and validation and understanding the cards you've been dealt and playing those cards to the best of their ability. It's not a fight that you have to have. It can feel like one, absolutely, but ultimately you want to get to a point when you're struggling with mental health stuff where it's not so much of a fight so much as it is a internal validation and learning what you're working with and learning how to optimize that to the best of your ability. As it relates to anxiety, though, if you run away from it and you avoid it, yeah, it's going to make it worse. So that's the consequence if you avoid anxiety. And yeah, it can be really tough when people are telling you that certain ways of orienting yourself to things is problematic, and that's why you got to build rapport with your therapists and with your doctors and stuff. But that's a long-term thing. So the last thing that I'll talk about in this letter is the idea that this person should be happy for the fact that they're being released soon. There's no such thing as what you should feel. There's only what you do feel. So if you ever ask yourself, what should I feel right now? That's a totally useless question. Focus on how you do feel and work with that. There's a lot in there, man. And the TLDR on the entire thing is this is why journaling can be very helpful for your therapist, because you get a ton of insight into stuff to talk about and have really nice collaborative discussions around. But a lot of issues in the way that was written if that person has some desire to work through some of the consequences of the way that they're presenting that journal. And again, if that person was to say, I'm totally okay with all of this, I'm just writing it down as a reflection of what my experience is, but I don't have any desire to change it, then that's fine. I would back off. But if the idea behind that is I'm writing these things down because I really would like to change them, like to have a different experience, then we have to challenge some of the things that you've written. Anyway. Oh, hey. Hi. Wow. At least he didn't jump in after us, I guess. Him being unfazed by the pyramid guy is really fascinating to me. But I guess we made our destination over here. So it was an elevator shaft. I do find... This is it's not really... I find it a bit unsettling that the isolation ward has the elevator that goes to the roof. Like, I would hope that there's a pretty significant lockdown on that. Like, that's a design flaw. If I have ever seen one. All right, wolf creeping on the two bunnies. Ugh. Hate opening those. Really hate opening those. God. I'm sure that's probably the case, Floaty. It just stands out to me that the elevator to the roof is in the isolation ward. It's just one of those things where it's like, did you guys consult with anybody worth their salt when you designed this place? Decided that that's where the isolation wing was going to be. All right. Oh, man. So, I always think that it's really important to understand some historical context around stuff like this. Because, yeah, you walk into a padded room in 2024 and you're like, oh, Jesus. But I'm not justifying the use of padded rooms, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for the return of padded rooms in psych wards. But it is really important to understand that our understanding of things like severe mental illness has a developmental trajectory. You don't spontaneously understand things. I mean, medicine, mental health, really anything, technology, it all starts with a very limited rudimentary understanding, and we refine it over time. Take the first hard drive, for example, like, or PC or whatever it was, like, filled an entire room. It's all mechanical, right? With very limited storage space. And now we've gotten to a point where you can pop like 2 terabytes on a tiny little, I mean, it's just unbelievable, right? So our understanding of mental illness and physical illness and stuff is very similar, where there's very much a period in time where you have somebody who has severe mental illness who is dangerous to people around them. And if you don't really understand it and you don't know how to intervene with it, yeah, you throw them in a straitjacket and push them into a room with a bunch of padded walls so they don't hurt themselves and call it a day. That is the rudimentary lack of development way that you intervene with this type of thing. It doesn't make it okay. I mean, it's a horrific thing, right? Like, isolation is a form of torture and can wreak havoc on a person's psyche. So you take a person who's already experiencing all sorts of issues in their mind, and you throw them into isolation in a padded room and lock them in there. that's not going to make it better. But some of it was just managing the danger, and people just didn't know how to intervene, and or didn't want to, or it's, you know, whatever. Yeah, lobotomies, all sorts of crazy ass shit. It's like when people would do bloodletting in the 1700s and shit for whatever. It's like, it's because you don't understand it. You don't have the technology, you don't have the research, you don't have any of that stuff, which is why it is so important to have funding for research so that you can develop things and understand them better and have these nice, refined ways of intervening. I mean, medical science is unbelievable, but it's the collective effort of so many humans having to run experiments and observations and theorizing and all this stuff in order for us to get to a point where we can understand things, where instead of taking a person who's having a really significant manic episode who might be dangerous to themselves and others and locking them away in a cell for a month, we figured out somehow that certain medications can kick that down to where a person's able to manage their life more effectively. And then you have talk therapy with certain theories of change and stuff that can help. And it's like, okay, now all of a sudden we're not just chucking people into these rooms. We have a much more refined process for how we might work on that. And I would love to be able to live 1,000 years to know where things are. Well, I mean, eventually the Earth's going to just be gone because we're just melting it to the core and it doesn't matter. But like in 1,000 years, assuming that humans don't destroy the Earth, I would love to know how medical science has moved forward and what our understanding of things are and how much more refined it is. Where, yeah, there will be things that people look at in our current lives where we look at medical science and go, Jesus, this is crazy. And, you know, 200 years, you look back and go, that wasn't great. So this is tough, man. I hate that anybody had to experience this. And also there is a historical context for it that I do believe is very important. Oh my God, I thought I just locked myself in there. I think it's very important for people to like have in mind. What are your thoughts on restraints? You have to keep people safe. So I'm not a fan of like everybody who's trying to help being in danger. I as a kid who developed a needle phobia, in part because I was restrained when I had to receive certain vaccines and get my blood drawn when I was a kid, and hated the restraint, I understand why, because I was a danger to myself and other people when I was physical. Also, people who are anti-restraint, sort of like unilaterally, likely have never been in a position where you actually had to hold a human back. It is unbelievable how difficult it is to get a human who is like flailing and fighting. It is so hard to get them pinned down. Like, it takes multiple humans to get somebody like incapacitated from a movement standpoint. So, like, there are some circumstances where the restraints are not just, it's not designed to torture the person who's being restrained. It's designed to keep everybody safe. And it is like monumentally difficult to do that. So my opinion on restraint is that there's a time and a place where that may be necessary in order to keep a person safe. But in that case, like the intention behind it is an important piece of it. But yeah, man, it's you see a lot of people who get like kind of anti-restraint, and it's like you can't let humans are primates, man. Like you wouldn't let a chimpanzee run with reckless abandon through a psych ward, and humans aren't as powerful as chimpanzees are, but like you can't let a human do that either. It's dangerous. So there are times where it's necessary, unfortunately. Ultimately, if you're in a position where you're trying to help, being in danger doesn't help. But yeah, you do have to have like really clear, mindful rules and, you know, regulations and stuff around that. So anyway, talk to anybody who's had like a loved one who has really severe dementia, and they'll tell you, even old people, man, they're slippery. They're tough to like lock down. They are fast. and people will run, and people will flail, and it is a force that you really don't understand how how tough it is to constrain until you're in that position. It's really, really tough. All right. What a game, man. We have progressed. Okay, if I was just like a dude playing this game on my PS2 back in like 2003, the entire amount of the game that we have currently played through would have taken maybe 3 minutes. And we are 36 minutes into the stream because there's so much shit to talk about. It's unbelievable. Like,
Laura?
How do you know my name?
Eddie told me.
That big, fat blabbermouth.
Laura, why do you keep running away from me? And how do you know about Mary?
I just do. What's the big deal?
Why can't you just tell me?
You gonna yell at me if I don't?
No. I won't. Please, just... I need to know.
Mary's my friend. We met at the hospital last year.
Stop lying. Laura, I'm sorry.
Fine, don't believe me. See if I care.
Hey!
James.
Let go.
I'm sorry, Laura, but I can't let you just run around this place. You might get hurt.
Hurt by what?
Look, just stay with me, okay? This is no place for a kid.
Fine. But there's something I gotta get.
Laura,
It's important.
what is it?
A letter. For Mary.
What?
I hid it. In there.
You sure this is where you left it?
It's in the back. Behind an old pipe.
Okay, wait here. Laura?
Idiot. God, James, come on, man.
Open the door, Laura.
Why should I? I'm a liar, right? Want me to open it? Huh? Do ya?
Laura, open this door right now.
What's the magic word?
Laura!
Nope, that's not it. I guess I won't open it.
Get out of here, you brat!
In your dreams, fart face.
Laura, please open the door. There's something in here.
Sure there is. A big lying fart face. See ya, fart face!
Laura! Laura!
Oh! We'll deal with that in a second. Okay. Wow. So James is the loser here. Okay? Like, he's the loser here. First of all, his lack of understanding of why she's running away from him. I mean, you could be curious about that, but you really got to dig deep here, brother. Like, she's running away from you because you're a guy who keeps chasing her. Easy as that. You're telling her something's dangerous that she doesn't perceive as dangerous, which leads me to believe that she's not seeing the same hospital that James is seeing. Like when he says, like, you're in danger, she's like, in danger of what? There's no way she hasn't run into monsters in this hospital if they exist for her. So she's probably fine. What James did there is a cardinal sin that so many parents and adults make. And I really cannot emphasize enough how much of a cardinal sin it is. When she says to James, are you going to yell at me if I don't? And he says no. And he essentially says to her, like, I'm going to be cool. I'm just trying to get information from you. And I want to know the answer to this question. And Laura answers him, trusts him, and answers him. And he freaks out. That, my friends, is how you lose the trust of your children. Because you just punished a desirable behavior. You just totally destroy. Like, you say, I need this information, and I realize that it's scary to give it to me, and that you don't trust me, you don't know me. She opens up, he freaks out, he doesn't believe her. And then, what? You're supposed to just expect that the kid's going to be like, yo, no, I get it. It's okay. I know it's a sensitive topic. I get that sometimes adults don't do a particularly good job controlling their emotions in response to their emotions. No, she's a kid. You literally just reinforced for her that you're not a safe person to open up to and talk about. And it doesn't take much for kids to file that away as being the de facto personality profile of you. Kids are not sophisticated enough to understand complex cause and effect. They run on emotion. They run on behavioral reinforcement. That is quite literally the way that you can affect children's development interactionally is purely via cause and effect and the flow of reinforcement mechanisms. And James just punished a desirable behavior and reinforced that he's not trustworthy. So everything she says to him there is true. It's not disrespectful. She says you're a liar, locks him in. First of all, he doesn't seem to be particularly safe. He yells at her, freaks out, she runs. He grabs her arm, tells her that where she's at isn't safe, despite the fact that she has survived it just fine up until this point. So yeah, if I'm her and I have the ability to lock him in this room, I'm probably doing it too and running away and trying to stay away from him because he hasn't shown himself to be somebody who's safe. He had his moment and he totally blew it. So, okay, if you're James, to be empathic toward James or to really like think through, like what's the way that James needs to handle this more effectively? James should be prepared for any conversation with Mary to stir him up. He has to acknowledge, like, if anybody acknowledges that they know him, that's a soft spot. He is likely to have a strong emotional reaction. So when a child discloses that she knows his wife, he has to be prepared to acknowledge and recognize that burst and hold it together. Because the entire point of that interaction is not necessarily just to get information, it's to build trust with Laura. It's to show Laura that disclosure of information that she knows about Mary isn't something that's going to lead to a not so great response. And he can pep talk himself that as the adult in the room. Adults are always held at a higher standard than children. You should never, if you hold children to a higher standard than adults, don't have children. Because the adults in the room are always responsible for being the more thoughtful ones, the more self-reflective, the more prepared, always. And he wasn't, and he's paying for it. It's unfortunate. Can we blame him for lashing out? Yes, and should. Yes. James can have a strong emotional reaction to his wife's name being mentioned, but lashing out, freaking out on Laura like that, nope, that's his response to his emotion. He is accountable for that. So yes, we absolutely can blame him for the way that he interacted with Laura when she disclosed that. 1,000% yes. You don't get a pass on that. Now, James could try to repair that. If you're a parent and this is your kid, you have to repair that. You go back to your kid and you go, hey, I screwed up. This is something that I wish more parents were willing to do. Acknowledging your screw ups to your kids is like huge. You're not going to shatter the idealization they have. In fact, you're going to build it. You go to your kid and you say, hey, you're right. I did lie to you in a way. I told you I wasn't going to freak out, and then you disclosed that, and I did. You're right. I messed up. Kids, I mean, hell, people watching this, I'm sure you may remember, if you've ever had a parent apologize for screwing up, I'm sure you remember it. And I'm pretty confident that your memory of that wasn't that you immediately said, yeah, look at my loser parent who just took accountability for the way they screwed up. Nope. You probably look at that and go, God, that was a big moment. It was so nice that my parents took accountability, that they trusted my experience and listened to my experience, acknowledged that they lied to me or that they didn't react in the way that they promised me they would, or X, Y, and Z. So important to do that. Not that you're going to be guaranteed to have the benefit of the doubt from her again, but that's a start. And it's on him to do that. So, I don't know what this is. It appears to be a blob of human that is wrapped in clothing and has a mouth where a vagina would be. I'd like to get another look at it before I provide any further analysis about the symbolism of this, and it's in a cage. So, let's fight it and see what the deal is. And then we'll talk more about it as I piece my thoughts together. Something tells me it's shotgun time. It's like hanging on by an arm. Where did it go? Whoa. Directional audio for the win. Wow. I really hope that my shotgun shells are making a difference here, because I am wasting a lot of ammo on this. In fact, maybe I should use my pistol a little bit. I would love to see the way that it's walking around up there. Oh, oh, oh. Turn around. Oh my god. This thing's like in pain, man. Oh, good. I want to go back to the person I was before I knew this thing existed.
James.
Okay. I know I've said multiple times so far through this playthrough that I have to be really mindful of avoiding my own confirmation bias on my theories. So what I'm about to say, I just want to make sure that there's some context for this, because I am very much holding in my mind right now. Just because you've theorized certain things doesn't mean that this has to fit within the profile of it. And also, really hard to get away from that, because there's three things that are mixed together in a lot of, like, in this monster. I'll just say in this monster, but in quite a few of the things that we've come across, but this one in particular. Sex, confinement, and death. I don't think it's any accident that there's a female-looking mouth at the position where we I mean, it's a little, I mean, it's always lower than you think it is, but that one's a little lower, where the vagina would be. I'm sorry, I should. I'm laughing at my own joke there, but it's not the place. But his wife would have been confined to a bed, likely a hospital bed, and there's a good chance that one or both of them saw that as a prison. And unfortunately, that's what happens. Like, when you're bedridden due to terminal illness, it's a hospital bed almost is like your pre-coffin. And I'm sure that Mary, in her own ways, felt trapped by her being in that bed and being poked and prodded and too weak to get out of bed and go home. And I'm sure that James saw it as a cage that locked his wife in and locked her away from him. It made her unavailable, made her miserable, but likely made him miserable. And the thing that she's not available in this playthrough. I don't really get to see her perspective on things. And I don't think it's any accident that we really only see James's perspective on things. A meta of this experience, I think, is that as James's wife was struggling, it seems, my hypothesis is that despite being there for her and caring about his wife a great deal, it seems to me that James was in his own head about it more than anything else. And so we're seeing him work out a lot of the stuff that he was experiencing rather than the types of things he learned about his wife's experience while she was going through this. So James, and that's okay. James likely sat there, as we talked about many times, thinking to himself, my wife isn't who I signed up for her to be. The imagery of containment cells consistently showing up throughout this playthrough suggests as much to me. She's locked in and I'm locked out, and I don't have a key. And I don't know what to do with that because I still have needs. I have sexual needs, I have relationship needs, I have availability needs. I mean, I have all sorts of things that are paramount to my positive experience of a relationship, and it's not happening for me. So, in terms of like the mouth imagery, where my mind goes with this is the idea that, well, okay, so there's a tendency to see, not always, okay, so like I realize this changes by person, but like generally in the way that like conventionally sexual process is talked about, oral sex is generally seen as more like available than full sexual intercourse. Like we always, you like the bases, you talk like oral sex being third base instead, and intercourse being home. And so I do wonder if James was like, well, her vagina is off limits to me. She's sick and frail, and intercourse would be way too much. And then a thought that a person may have and may experience a significant amount of shame around is, but what about her mouth? Also, it very well could be, I mean, the mouth is also where you emote, you scream, you acknowledge pain. So also this is perhaps a manifestation of where he most saw the pain from her, in the way that she groaned or yelled and whatever. So there's this whole complicated mishmash of, maybe that could work sexually for me, but also this is something I associate with the pain. So is it really, it feels like kind of out of place to me, and I don't know if it's something I could ask about. I don't even know if it's something that she could do. Is it? But becomes a very complicated deal. Finally, or maybe it affirms, I really am starting to believe that James was a participant in her final moments. It's hard for me to get away from that. If he suffocated her, as I hypothesized several episodes ago, the mouth would be a pretty prevalent aspect of that. You notice that her nose was covered in the way that it was represented to us, but the mouth would have been something that you cover as well. And so the imagery of the mouth and the nose as being maybe the last part of her face that he looked at before she died, because that's what he needed to see in order to land whatever he landed on it, would stick out. And that piece of her body being outside of the cage maybe could be an association to the fact that the suffocation of her mouth, that the availability of that was what freed her from that cage. Or conversely, freed him from the cage, or both. if I participate in her demise, I end it sooner. She's not miserable anymore. I'm not miserable anymore. We can move on. And her being sort of covered up would suggest to me that his sole focus in that moment was not a final look over. My mission here is to help out. So in the moment, if this is true, in the moment, he probably thought he was also helping her. But my sense would be that once you realize what you've done, you sort of have that like wash into your mind of, oh my God, I just killed my wife. And even if it seems like she or I are better off for it because she was so miserable, I don't know that I love that. It's the, Anakin Skywalker, what have I done? It's that. Like, yeah, man, when you have the refractory period of a very intense moment like that, reality starts to set in. And so I think part of what we're dealing with in Silent Hill is the guilt that James may be experiencing around that or participating in. And he's working all of this out. He's seeing the imagery that was so tangible for him as his wife was going through what she was going through. And it's really, the thing I consistently have been saying that I love about this game is that it's producing these themes that really are not talked about very often, which is, what about the people who aren't suffering from the terminal illness? What about the people who are around it? What about the people who deal with a loved one who is far down the road of Alzheimer's or dementia? What about the spouses and the children who watch their spouses or parents go through a terminal illness that completely makes them unavailable in a way that you would expect them to be available or would want them to be available? What happens when the shitty parts of what it is to be an organic being pervade into the things that we all love to believe are going to be perfect forever? And we often focus on understandably so, we focus on the person who had the terminal illness. I'm sure James, people might give you the how you doing, but so many people who are valent to a person who's experiencing something really serious like that will often diminish their experience because they don't want to make it sound like they're having it worse off than the person who actually has cancer. How much of an asshole am I if I talk about how much of a painful process this is for me when my wife's the one that's locked up in a bed with her body having metastasized cancer all over it? And so people hold back and they judge themselves. And this is why I can't emphasize enough the power of having a therapist during that time, because part of me believes that if James had had a therapist he was talking to during this, he may not be dealing with as many demons and monsters with this that he currently is. But this is what happens. This is why I say all experiences are valid. It's why it's not a comparison. You can honor how awful it is for a person to experience a terminal illness and also validate your own experience of how difficult it's been for you to witness it. Those two things don't have to overlap or fight against each other. In fact, they shouldn't. So I think we're seeing James have a reckoning with all of his thoughts and decision making that happened as his wife declined. And did he take some degree of control in the final moments? And is he regretting that? Again, I don't know. I could be so far off. I don't want comments down below that tell me whether I'm right or wrong, by the way. If you're watching this and you're listening to me and you're like, actually, the developers of the game talked about this, I don't want to hear it. Because, again, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to sort of use this to try to illustrate things and make it relatable for folks who might be struggling with things in real life. So don't hit me with the actuallys. I'm sure hopefully we find out what all of this is. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. But it's hard for me to get away from this level of hypothesizing around this because of the way that the imagery is consistently brought to us. I'm a big fan of patterns, and I see a lot of patterns in this. So, what a wild ride, man. Also, not to like totally bury the lead here, but Laura just disclosed before that fight that she met Mary in the hospital, which is interesting to me. Because if that's true, and James doesn't recognize her, what does that say about how often James was around while Mary was in the hospital? And does his lack of ability to recognize her bring up some shame around how little he visited his wife? That's where my head goes with that. Because if she met her and they were like buddies to the point that she's writing letters to her, I don't know what kind of relationship they may have had. But James doesn't recognize a girl who managed to meet his wife? His wife never mentioned her? Simplest explanation would be James just simply wasn't there.
James. James.
Oh. Okay, so we're gonna do this. Okay, so this is the second time this has happened. First time was in the apartments, right? We were in like cleaner apartments, and then we traversed the gap, and we were in dilapidated version, and it seems like we are here again. We are in nasty, rusted out version of the hospital. With some interesting, like, little pieces. Yeah, that was the nice hospital. You see, y'all were bitching about that hospital. You didn't know how good you had it. I'm ready to go back. Patient number 3141, designation 298.9. Room number crossed out. Initial symptoms, hyperfocus. Current diagnosis, they can be fixed. That's not a diagnosis. That's a prognosis, if anything. Recommendation, stop at nothing. Holy Christ. No turning back now. Is this me making an evaluation of this? 3141, okay. Yeah, luckily, James is up to date on his tetanus. Good thing there's the syringes here are still good, though. Okay. So we're not in the lobby. We're in the day room. Okay. Oh, God. The whole hospital? We have to go through the whole hospital again? Oh, my God. I get that it was like 2003 and we had to reuse assets, but goddamn. It's like when you play Halo and just traverse the same stuff over and over again. Oh, man. There is a beauty to it, though. Like these rusty ass areas are. I mean, I commend the design team. Look at that. Clock's still set at the same time, even in Rusty World. Oh, not going down there. Sure. Why not? No way. No way am I getting on this elevator. Oh my god. Although, I mean, you know, at this point we've dealt with worse, so. Oh my god. You know, I just think, I think my OSHA inspection on this, on my clipboard, I've got a lot of sheets of paper, but I think on the first sheet of paper, all I'm gonna do is just write, nuke from orbit. Fail. Like, I walk 2 steps into this hospital and know it's gonna fail my rigorous inspection. Oh, okay, I know where we are now. Oh, so that elevator works in Rusty World, but not in Normie World. I guess let's save again. Woof. Okay. Yeah. Let's open that nasty ass box. Jeez. I think it's locked too. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that we could all put our collective heads together and decide that this is locked. That is a locked box. Yes. Indeed. Can't wait to see how sexy the nurses are here. Probably vomit more. Oh, you carry knives here. And you wear a cowboy hat? Oh no, that's a nurse's hat. Oh, and you can see me. Yeah, if you vomit, aim through the grate in the floor. Great call. Life pro tip. Next time you're in Rusty World Hospital. Like toilets and stuff are overflowing. This place is nasty, dude. Hit her with that. Hey, thanks for the raid. Just in case you're new here, this is a spoiler-free run. I'm fully blind and going into this game, so please do not, if you are here for the first time, do not spoil anything in this game. Or backseat. I do love that the chains. But thank you for the raid. I hope you had a great stream, and I appreciate you bringing folks over here. You've never met me before. I'm DrMick. I'm a licensed therapist. I have a PhD in human development, and I play cool games like Silent Hill 2, and I analyze them with my therapist brain. People seem to really like it, so. They like me more than they hate this hospital, I hope. I see you, legs. I see you. Yeah, do you think James will stick his arm in that toilet? We've stuck our hands in worse in this playthrough. I'm glad that they're giving me my shotgun shells back. Oh, okay. Yeah, this place is nasty. Ugh. Chain go down, I go up. Huh. Oh, how we danced, arms flailing, our bodies in perfect synchrony, and the music played, but in any dance there comes a time one must take the lead, And the music got louder and louder, pounding, piercing, and then silence. Oh, wow. Chains around the neck, chains in the mind. You just, the consistency of it. He saw his wife as shackled, and by extension, in his own way, probably saw himself as shackled. I mean, that's pretty heavy hand. Oh. Very much like a fear pose. Instrument of force. Hold on, hold on. Oh. Okay. You know, speaking of patterns, I just put something together. I'm not ending, don't worry. I just put something together. When we went through the apartment complex, and we were in like the original manifestation of it, and then traversed into the second apartment complex, the second apartment complex also had chains. Like, we had to unshackle things. So I'm wondering if what we're getting is the old 1-2 internal intervention approach, which is essentially where you see something, like James is seeing things presented to him to process, and then he has to go into the rusty version of it to unshackle himself of whatever it is that he was experiencing relative to that thing that was represented to him. So he has a lot of memories and associations with the hospital, which we saw played out, and now we go into this version of the hospital, which is like this decayed, gross, nasty manifestation of it that's even worse than what he had originally seen, and he's got to unburden himself or unshackle himself from whatever it is that he carries with him as it relates to that internalization. Because this is the second time we've done this, and there's been chains in both directions, so... Now, what that makes, though, is it makes me interested in the things that we're unshackling. To see if that, like, theory carries any kind of weight to it. Patterns, man. Look for patterns. Patterns are a winner. We're wearing black dresses in here. That is one difference. Damn it. Damn it! Don't play baseball, James. All the vomit in here. Maybe this would be like James's mind while he's talking to a therapist. I don't know that I would go that far. I would just say it's sort of like a concrete version of him, like, fighting through whatever his associations are. He's like breaking it down. figuring out what parts of it are his to have to fight through. Shit, dude. Damn. Jesus. Oh, shit. Legs. Come on now. It'd be so tiring swinging that pipe all the time. All right. Dick! You weren't here before. Oh, God. All my intrusive thoughts about legs throughout my life are coming back to haunt me. Said James. Dire Heart, I mean, it's certainly plausible, but I don't know that we have... I don't know that I've seen enough evidence that that would be the case. This hasn't really been about Mary at all. It's been about, like, James's perception of Mary. So, hard to say. I mean, maybe. I'm sure he may have worried that she saw him that way as a monster. Maybe. Rusty World Hospital would make a great haunted house. It would. I wish Rusty World had less locks on the doors, but alright. Jeez, man. These chains. These are some long-ass chains. Down into the depths we go. Yeah, I really don't believe that this is Mary's subconscious. It wouldn't make any sense. Potatoes rotten, rice rotten, bread rotten, meat rotten. Patient broke a whole cart of dinner plates. We will name the price. Jesus. Monday. All will be served what they deserve. Ooh. Ooh. This is... Rusty World is not a place you want to eat at. Oh, God. Ugh. Ugh. God, this place is so gross. Yeah, man. Say. Mom, I want to go to the hospital. We have a hospital at home. Hospital at home. Did Dr. Mick forget about the dodge button? More at 9. Yeah, this jacket gives me plus 25 resilience. That's why I'm so tanky right now. Rust debuffs have nothing on me. Hey. See ya. do appreciate that Rusty World has lots of ammo. Seriously, this is the world's longest chain. It's absolutely ridiculous. You're certainly never going to hear anybody say that this hospital was off the chain after this. I'll be here all night. Laugh at my jokes, or I'll shoot again. Laugh at them. I warned you. After my interaction with Laura, I'm going to keep to my word. Saved up a lot of pistol ammo. I intend to use it. Hey, as I walk through this nasty-ass hospital, I just want to say I really appreciate that all of you are here. Thanks for caring at all about what I have to say about this game. I know it's beloved by many, so the fact that you're taking the time to watch my playthrough is very cool of you to do. And I appreciate those of you that leave thumbs ups and comments and say nice things. I also appreciate those of you that are willing to share your thoughts about the things that I have to say and all that fun stuff. So thanks for engaging with this content and for following and all of that. And if you're hate watching me, hi. I still don't know why you're doing that, but hi. I see you too. Key of Bliss. Yes, that's exactly what my association with that would be. Also, shout out to Konami for sending me the game. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the stream. Konami was kind enough to give me a code for this, and very cool of them to do. I hope I'm doing it justice from their perspective. Key of Bliss. Jam it in your eye hole. Lapis eye key. One shackle down. I like this little choose your own adventure part. Ugh, so much nasty ass shit in here. This is a terrible place. Got some strong glass in here though. Howdy. I see you there, Legs. I see you there. Legs always creeping. Yeah, they take shotgun safety very clearly, very seriously. Yes, indeed. Hey, can we stick our hand in that hole? Bummer, man. James and holes. Name a more perfect combo. God damn it. If you had DrMick pushes that cabinet to the right on your Silent Hill bingo card, congratulations. Could have gone either way on that one. Those are the types of things where I wish there were like secret channel point bets, where like people voted on them like way before the playthrough started and I have no idea. Then I do it and all of a sudden half the chat's like, yes! Oh, she just ducked it like the perfect time. James is doing this all in wet socks. Okay. See, I was so preoccupied by my general discomfort in opening the metal drawers, I didn't pay attention to the fact that legs would be chilling. Of course legs would be chilling. He's there again, looking, staring. He says he'll drag me there. I don't want to. I won't let him take me. Both, Rosie. Another staticky TV, man. Director's office. Just to make sure they also shut off in Rusty World. Okay, they do. Good. Strange noises in parentheses. Oh, it's like a heartbeat. And some very labored breathing. Muffled breathing. Dude, I'm telling you. The two things, again, the two things James would have been listening for, breath and heartbeat. No one knows. LFI, thank you very much for the sub. Unsettling. What's wild about that though? Oh yeah. Okay. So whatever's going on in C3, don't love it. Oh, hello, office. My old friend. Kat, thank you very much for the Prime sub. We're going to listen to that in a minute, but... There'll be no pain anymore. No pain, no pain, no pain, no pain. Manic scribble. Well, that was fun. Let's do it again. It's so nice to laugh again. Well, this is an... This just occurred to me. So remember, where we're at in this hospital, or this hospital is for palliative care. This is not a psychiatric hospital. I don't imagine that when Mary was declining that she was in a psychiatric hospital. She was in a palliative care facility. And it strikes me that it would seem to me that perhaps James had some level of association with the palliative care also being kind of like a psych ward. Where he's like losing his wife. He might feel like he's going insane. He probably has some internal representation of like people being shackled and held down and they're against their will and treatment is futile, etc., etc. Like, I wonder how much of this is that James really made an association with palliative care as the same as a brutally awful mental institution, given that he didn't just lose his wife's body, but perhaps lost some of his wife's mind or his own in the process. It's just a piece of speculation, but it's striking me. I'm thinking about this. Like, I see that table where there's shackles and stuff on it, and the obvious imagery is there, right? That like all of the stuff that we talked about with that boss battle. So I'm not going to reiterate that, but just struck me that like there was a poster in the original hospital that was talking about being palliative care, which would make sense given that she had cancer. So why are we seeing psych ward stuff? Or does James worry that his willingness to end his wife's life makes him a psychopath? More at 4. Hex is no and no. I only do video games. I found 0050 in the ECT room again. This time I checked. He was not appointed for the treatment. How is it possible he got there all by himself? And how would he know how to turn the thing on? Somebody's going to answer for this. So close, it will happen. Has to. God, look at that. That is just... Of all the games I've ever played that included shooting guns, this is by far the most difficult because James just clearly doesn't know his way around a firearm. Was the entire hospital a palliative care facility or just that specific floor? I mean, it very well could be that they were in a palliative care wing of a hospital, but like, what reason would James have had to go over to the mental institution, right? Like if there was a psychiatric ward, James wouldn't have been over there. So that's why my theory is that this is some of like James's perception of that space rather than an actual representation of it. I could be wrong. I don't know that for certain. It's just me kind of theorizing based on some of what we're seeing. And all these padded walls. It's so funny because I'm playing a video game, right? Like, obviously I'm playing a video game, but there is still just a part of like my internal human experience and sensibilities where I turn this corner and I look in that room and I go, ooh, don't go in there. Don't go in there. There's shapes and things you don't understand in that space and you really just don't need to go in there. It's like 34-year-old me is just like, nah. No, on second thought, we're not going to Camelot. It is a silly place indeed. We don't need to go there. Alright, we're going to go down here first. Probably need some gas for that generator. Video game logic playing itself out. Oh my god, this is... okay. Very dark in here. Don't love that. I won't rest until they're solved. I won't rest. I can't rest. I don't know how anymore. Don't know how anymore. Oh man, I wonder if that one dude went nuts trying to cure things that weren't necessarily curable. Y'all can hear that, like, screaming and shit in the background, right? Very unsettling. All right, the little generator that could. Don't you love having a gas-powered generator sitting inside of a... inside of a hospital? With no ventilation? Time for a little nap. Yep. Just slip away. All right, let's see what happens here, huh? Nine, 6, 5, 9. Wow. Okay, that's That's not what I was expecting. You guys want to go hear that heartbeat again? All right, we got one chain left. Chain's broken. Check your corners, James. You played a lot of Escape from Tarkov while your wife was dying in the hospital and you feel bad about it. So you better use those skills for good here. Six pills in the sink. Watch it go dark. Alright, so it flickers twice. One year they've been watching me. So many pills they feed me. When a loud hour comes, I tremble every time the light falls. 162. That could be. I wish I put the puzzle on hard, man. It's just. Oh, what is this? Oh, wait a second. Okay. So it's not... I tremble every time the light falls. But there's no hands on it. Alright, I'm intrigued by that clock because there's no hands on it. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna go with 162. Seems pretty logical. Is that the same time as all the other clocks? I think it might be one of the hands, yeah. I will say, man, if you're like locked into a hospital bed or, you know, just like don't have a ton of stimulation around you and don't have an ability to really like move and get to new stimulation, you'll do all sorts of stuff with the environment, and the environment itself will become like overstimulating. You start looking at some of the finer details of like flickering lamps, patterns at walls and stuff. Like the human brain is kind of amazing in its way that it tries to find complexity and stuff when it doesn't have the novelty of stimulation that it's used to. Dong ding dong. Wait a second, there's 4 numbers. When a loud hour comes, I tremble every time the light falls. So 1622. I'll see you in part 9. Thank you for taking the time to enjoy this part. I am so grateful for your presence during this playthrough. I'm so glad that so many of you are willing to watch this, whether you watch it live or whether you watch it as they come out or years into the future. I am so grateful that you engage with me, that you care about what I have to say, and that I hope you check out my other playthroughs and keep coming back for more. It's been wonderful to have you aboard. So do leave a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. Check the links in the description. And subscribe to the channel. If you're binging, I'll see you right here in the next episode. And if you're waiting for the next one to come out, get it out as soon as I can. I appreciate you. You matter. And I will see you on the next one.